Protect your DNA. BioPQQ can promote formation of new mitochondria. Infowarsstore.com.
And we begin tonight with new news out of Brussels. We have more information about the suspects. And we see outrage as Turkish president reveals they arrested one of the Brussels bombers in June and deported him back to Belgium, and even warned authorities he was a militant. And we see that Belgian brothers were named as the suicide bombers who struck the airport and metro train. The taxi driver who took the terrorists to the airport reveals that a fourth suitcase bomb was left behind because it couldn't fit in the taxi. And the cabbie was suspicious after the attacks and led police to a safe house containing a fourth bomb, ISIS flag, and a suicide note. So very icy details on that. And I guess they're still continuing to see if anybody else was involved. And when you look at this, you look at the Turkish president warning, it reminds me in a very similar situation to that of the Boston bombers. You guys recall that the older brother Tamerlan had gone out to Chechnya and was involved in various groups out there. Russia, you know, that country that we haven't been on the best terms with for the past several decades, actually picked up the phone and said, hey, United States, you may want to watch out for this Tsarnaev guy. Long story short, the whole thing happens at the Boston bombing. And you think about how Secretary Napolitano, as well as many other people, were briefed on the older brother, but nothing was done about it. And we see a similar situation here. And it brings up the question, should we deport people or should we jail them? Because personally, I don't have an issue deporting a violent convicted felon, but you also have the notion that they could re-enter the country or, you know, go back, re-up and do some horrible things some other place, whether it's a terror suspect or a murder suspect or a rape suspect. You know, this debate continues to happen. And quite frankly, I don't have a definitive answer, but it is something that needs to be addressed, whether we should jail them or deport them back to their country of origin. Now, in some other news, rather bizarre news, actually, concerning the Brussels terror attack, we see that an American victim had encountered terrorism before he went out to Belgium. It says in all, officials say at least 250 people were injured in Tuesday's terrorist attacks, including 3 Mormon missionaries from Utah. Mason Wells' family said he was treated for burns and shrapnel injuries. Incredibly, this is not the first time Wells has seen terrorism firsthand. He was standing near the finish line 3 years ago when terrorists detonated explosives at the Boston Marathon. Wells was also in France, but not in Paris, when those terrorist attacks occurred in November. Now, people see stories like this, and sometimes I get questions on Twitter or Facebook or whatever, and people say, look, you know, was this guy in on it? Was he some type of plan? Is he, you know, some fixture in it? And I don't think the guy's, I'm very confident he's not a fixture in it. But in a similar way, you guys recall back in the tragedies that were Sandy Hook and also the Boston bombing, there was CNN video of what appeared to be the same lady being interviewed by the network at both places. Now, what are the odds of that? I don't know. Pretty long odds that could happen, but it's still in the realm of possibility. So I don't necessarily think these people are in on it or some type of plan or crisis actors or anything else. It's just, you know, strange things happen. This guy just happened to be, he wasn't in Paris, but he was also in France. And he was, of course, at the Boston bombing as well as Brussels. So he's just one of those guys, one of those Forrest Gump type guys. They just seem to be at these apexes of history, and hopefully he'll recover from his wounds and move on to a happy and normal life. Now, as we're talking about the terror attacks that are going on around the world, we can't ignore religious persecutions, because we do see groups like ISIS beheading people, places like Saudi Arabia beheading people, not necessarily for their Christian beliefs, but for other things as well. But now we see Christian convert from Islam hacked to death in Bangladesh. Unidentified attackers hacked a Christian convert to death this week in northern Bangladesh, in the latest attack in the Muslim-majority country. The incident occurred Tuesday morning, where 68-year-old Hossein Ali was hacked to death by 2 assailants wielding machetes. He died on the spot. The attackers exploded a Molotov cocktail to create panic and left the scene on a motorcycle. The police chief added that while Ali had converted to Christianity several decades ago, he was not necessarily an outspoken opponent of Islam, calling into question the motive behind the attack. So basically, he doesn't know exactly why. His Christian belief is suspected to be a motivating factor, but they can't say that it is the definitive thing. And this is a real form of religious persecution. I remember there are things much more frivolous, like the Starbucks cups. I remember a lot of people got up in arms about that. Taking Santa Claus and Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer off a coffee cup is not religious persecution hacking a guy to death with a machete is religious persecution. So hopefully people will realize that, and maybe we can get past the petty things and focus on things that actually matter. And this is one of those things. Earthquakes killed over 8,000 people and left hundreds of thousands homeless in Nepal during 2015. In the desolation, chaos, and widespread panic that followed, a surge in child trafficking was inevitable, just as it was after the 2004 tsunami in southern Asia, the 2010 earthquake in Haiti, and the 2011 drought in the Horn of Africa. And it goes on from there. And I really didn't know that when you have these big natural disasters, child traffickers come in and try to take the children. But I guess that is, ripe for the picking. You show up, it's kind of the old adage of the guy in the candy van or the ice cream truck. He shows up to give aid and comfort to the kids, and then they run off with them, and that seems to be the issue. And UNICEF is defining child trafficking as the act of recruitment, transportation, transfer, harboring, or receipt of a child for the purposes of exploitation, either within or outside the country. And of course, there are many types of child slavery. Sex trafficking is a very big deal, but you also have forced labor as well as many things as well. So it's one of those, never let a good crisis go to waste. Like the bad guys like to say, they take advantage of the situation to do things that they normally couldn't. And when you put kids in a van or a boat or whatever they're doing to render them aid, people aren't as suspicious when the kids are homeless. Maybe their parents died and people just come in and try to take advantage of the situation. It's very disheartening, but we do see that the UN is cracking down on child trafficking, human trafficking, and at least trying to clean up their own house, getting those dirty people out of the UN who are doing these horrible things to children. Now, that's a very sad story, but this should give you a ray of hope for humanity. Feds arrest 8,000 violent fugitives in a sweep. In Baltimore alone, 148 fugitives were swept up, including 23 murder suspects in an effort led by the U.S. Marshals Service known as Operation Violence Reduction 12. I guess after Operation Fast and Furious, they tried to make the acronyms a little less sensational, but they also did arrest for 648 gang members and 846 suspects of sexual abuse in Brooklyn, Camden, New Jersey, Chicago, Compton, Fresno, Gary, Indiana, Milwaukee, New Orleans, Oakland, Savannah, and Washington, D.C. So they are making good progress out there. And like I said, people say, hey, why do you talk about the feds and talk about the cops? If the feds and the cops do bad things, I talk about it. If the feds and cops do good things, I talk about it. So good job to you, feds, on this for getting these guys off the streets. I think most people will sleep a little bit easier knowing that these violent offenders are not out there on the streets.
Please take a moment to listen to what I'm about to break down very, very carefully, because the information I'm about to lay out in just 2 minutes changed my life and changed the life of many, many people around me. I was a big sports enthusiast, but loved to eat like a pig when I was 10 years old up to about 22 or so. And I ran 6 miles every other day and lifted weights almost every day and had a great physique. Then I got into radio and television 21 years ago and got so busy in my work, I stopped working out. And everything was okay for 4 or 5 years, but then suddenly I started putting on pounds every month. And in the next 10 years, I gained almost 100 pounds. Then about 7 years ago, I began jogging, swimming long distances, and lifting weights again, trying to lose weight, and was only able to lose about 20 of the 98 pounds. I even changed my diet. I even increased the exercise. It didn't work. But as soon as I began to get the nutrients and compounds that I needed, my whole life changed. I've gone from 200 and almost 80 pounds down to about 220 pounds or so. It is incredible. And in just the last 3 years, Super Male Vitality, developed by Dr. Group for InfoWarsLife.com exclusively, and products like the Survival Shield X2 Nascent Iodine have just done incredible things for my body. I work out less. Even though I'm older, I've lost more weight. My muscles got stronger, my stamina, my libido, and so much more. The truth is, we went out to bring you the very best we could, true game-changing products. Visit InfoWarsLife.com today and secure your super male or female vitality and X2 True Nascent Iodine today, and hopefully start your journey towards living a more natural, focused, clean life. There's a lot of other excellent nutraceuticals we've developed, and also third-party ones that we sell at InfoWarsLife.com that are excellent. But the two game changers that I believe if you order them are most likely to really give you the biggest bang for your buck are Super Male Vitality and Female Vitality, and of course, X2 Nascent Iodine. Take the challenge, visit InfoWarsLife.com today, and secure your nutraceuticals. At the same time, know that you're funding the fight for freedom worldwide. Thank you for your support.